of Talking Naturally. Today I am delighted to be joined by NHSN Trustee Sammy Mason. Welcome, Sammy.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
So, for the first question, can I ask what first sparked your interest in the natural world, and can you maybe tell me about where some of your passion for nature came from?
Yeah, so I think this is quite a cliched answer. I think a lot of people my age also answer this, but I think my earliest memories, I guess, about kind of a passion for nature, I think did come from like David Attenborough documentaries, like Blue Planet. I remember, the first Blue Planet, just watching it and just being in absolute awe of like what was on the screen. And they do that little bit at the end about like the scientists and the videographers who go out and film this nature. And I just remember being absolutely fascinated by it. I think I was always fascinated by the sea at that age of my life. Which I grew up in Derby, which I think is the city that is furthest away from the sea. So that was maybe something to do with it. It was this magical thing that I couldn't reach. But that's kind of my earliest memories, I guess, of being just really loving nature. I was always quite an outdoorsy kid, I think. I did spend a lot of time in the garden, and my dad was a big gardener, so I remember spending a lot of time in the garden with him. I remember going around and collecting ladybirds and doing all stuff like that, but I don't think I necessarily realised at that young age that that's what it was. It was a passion for nature. I think I just enjoyed being outdoors. And I think, it wasn't until many years, even into adulthood, that I kind of realised that actually I am really passionate about nature and that's my interest, I guess. I never really thought of it like that. It was just, a part of my life. But I was always a very sciencey kid. That's I think what my parents would say about me as a child is I loved science, I loved experimenting, I loved asking questions. So I was very, very nerdy about science as a child. But I think realising that nature was part of that nerdiness came a little bit later on in life.
Fab. And then, little did you know, it would turn into a fantastic career as well. So you are now an engagement and research professional. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do now, about your work?
So I guess, I'll start a little bit with the journey that's led up to where I am now. So then, I guess spoke about my early childhood, and then fast forward, went to university. Still, really love science at this point. So I actually applied to do physics at university. And changed it literally the week before I was about to go to biology. So I just knew that I wanted to do something with science. Went to University of Birmingham, did biology, and throughout my degree just did more and more stuff to do with the environment. And I was lucky enough that I applied and got awarded a grant to go and do some field work abroad as well in one of the summers between my second and third year, I think. So I went to Amazon rainforest, which was an incredible experience. And I think, that experience again was one of those kind of cementing, life-changing experiences that I was like, wow, this is something that I could actually do as a career. And then went on to do my masters at Birmingham, and then saw a PhD opportunity pretty much straight after that. I was very fortunate. I never really intended on going down an academic career path, but I think just opportunities fell into place. And then saw a PhD opportunity. So my PhD was working on a citizen science project called Mammal Web. And it was using camera traps to kind of monitor UK mammals at kind of large scales, but also with a citizen science approach, so very much working with people, engaging with people, and that was the side of it that I love as well. So as well as kind of the nature and sciencey parts, I think working with people was part of my passion at this point. So did my PhD. And went on a whole journey with that, went down lots of different side quests, which luckily my PhD supervisors supported. So did a lot of field work, but also a lot of engagement work, and did a really big study working with schools, getting schools involved in citizen science and monitoring using camera traps, and then following that work, and that led on to my work with the British Ecological Society. So that's what I did following my PhD, and continued to work with schools, doing nature activities, citizen science with them. And then after that, I worked for University of Edinburgh for a little bit. So still based in Durham, but would travel up there a little bit. And that was interesting because that was more with a public health research team. So, but looking at the health and wellbeing benefits of green space and nature, and still taking a citizen science approach as well. So yeah, still very much around being outdoors and in nature, but with a kind of health and wellbeing angle to it, which I'm really interested in as well. And then most recently now, I'm self-employed, which is great because it means that I get to be involved in lots of different projects with lots of different charities, lots of different people. And yeah, all of my work is kind of engagement work, usually with schools and young people, but with kind of communities as well. Either kind of facilitating workshops, doing different projects, but then also doing kind of research and evaluation work. So I've been doing the evaluation of Gosforth's Wild Web for NHSN, which has been really great. And then yeah, I've been involved in kind of lots of different projects with that. So yeah, so it's been a bit of a whirlwind tour. But yeah, that's where I am now.
Wow. We'll go on to talk a little bit more about your work with NHSN in a minute, but out of curiosity, what were you doing in the Amazon?
So it was just basically kind of an introduction to lots of different survey techniques. So they have kind of a group of researchers out there who do kind of long-term ecological monitoring, and then they bring out kind of university students each year to kind of help with the field work. So did all sorts of different things, like river dolphin surveys all the way down to kind of insects surveys, different walking transects, and things like that. So yeah, it was like I said, a life-changing experience. I think because of what I saw and the experiences I had, but also I guess slightly more depressingly, but it was also I think my first glimpse of like environmental change happening in real life. So the part of the Amazon that I was in the flooded forest, and usually in the summer months it dries out enough that you can get out onto ground. And that was the first year ever that there'd been just massive amounts of extreme weather, which meant that it hadn't dried out in the same way, and so it was all flooded. So you either couldn't get off the boat, or we had to get off the boat in kind of full like gear, really up to our waists in it. And I think ever since then that's been more what it's been like. So it was kind of I think my first real life kind of experience of seeing environmental change happening as well, which then also, as sad as that is, I think kind of inspired me to keep working in this area.
So you mentioned briefly that you are an evaluator at the Gosforth's Wild Web and that you're also an NHSN trustee. Can you tell us a little bit about what all of that means and what you like about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm in my second term now being an NHSN trustee. And it's been an amazing experience, and basically, I guess what it involves for people who don't know is you kind of have oversight of kind of the strategic direction of NHSN and the charity, so the kind of day-to-day operations are managed by the staff, but as a trustee you kind of come together for board meetings a few times a year, kind of have oversight of kind of those kind of higher level strategic thinking, policies, finances as well, which I've learned a lot about. And just kind of offering suggestions, advice, feedback on those things. And so it's been a really amazing experience to be part of it. So I was kind of involved with NHSN a little bit prior to becoming a trustee, and just was really inspired by the work that they did and everything, and gave a few talks and things like that. Was involved in some of the education outreach work here and bringing schools onto the reserve. And so I remember when Claire asked me to be a trustee, and I was just, oh my gosh, over the moon. I think as well, because I'm one of I think at the time I was the youngest trustee to come onto the board, and so it's a lot of imposter syndrome, I guess, because you kind of amongst professors and people who've been doing this for 50 plus more years than you have, but I think, and I'm not necessarily the loudest or most confident person, especially in kind of a big meeting like that, but I think, I guess my advice to other people who are interested in being a trustee and things is there's lots of different ways that you can contribute, and I think although I'm maybe not the loudest in meetings. I think I can contribute in other ways, like I'm very meticulous at looking over policies and reports, and I've been involved in various grant applications. I think I've got quite good networks of people that I can draw on to kind of bring in other more collaborative work into the charity, and yeah, coming up with ideas and things like accessibility as well, which has become a big part of the charity's work. So yeah, I think being a trustee is an amazing opportunity. I would highly recommend it. I'm actually a trustee for 2 organisations now. Mammal Web, who I did my PhD with, has recently become a charity as well, so I'm now a trustee for them. But yeah, I really enjoyed my experiences as a trustee, so I would recommend it to others.
And can you tell us a little bit about your role as an evaluator for Gosforth Wild Web, and what that project has been and what your role in it has been?
Yes, yeah, so she got background in kind of research for doing my PhD, and in quite kind of mixed methods research, I guess, doing some quantitative data collections, so kind of collecting numbers, I guess, but also qualitative work and doing like interviews and focus groups and things. And I think also doing that in quite a participatory way, so doing it kind of with the people that you're working with, both in terms of Gosforth Wild Web, I guess that means the staff and the volunteers and the participants. So I've been involved in the evaluation of Gosforth Wild Web, which has basically been kind of working alongside the NHSN staff team who are running the project, and kind of looking at the evaluation strategy, how we can kind of collect information and data on what's going well, what could be improved, and then kind of doing making those improvements as we go along, but then also at the end of the project, which is kind of now, I guess, writing up kind of a big report which goes to the National Heritage Lottery, who funded the project, but also is an opportunity for NHSN to kind of look at everything that they've achieved and kind of build on that, and I guess embed the learnings from the project into NHSN's kind of strategy going forward. So yeah, again, it's been a great thing to be a part of, even just a small part, just on the side, kind of looking in, seeing what's going on. But it's nice now to be able to, I'm in the process of writing the report to kind of bring it all together, and all the amazing work that the team have achieved.
So let's get back to nature. So what would you say is your most memorable nature moment in the Northeast?
Yeah, so I have 2, I guess. One more personal and one more work related. But so I did just rewinding again a little bit, my master's project in Birmingham. I did a big citizen science survey of the Birmingham canal system for otters. And it was at the time the biggest survey that had been done for otters on the canal system. So otters were in all of the surrounding areas of Birmingham, but they hadn't quite managed to come into the city centre yet. But yeah, through lots of work, obviously cleaning up the canals over the last few decades, and they were starting to encroach. So it was quite an important survey to see where these otters had got to. And yeah, I organised lots of teams of citizen scientists to go out and survey for otters. Which, if you don't know, surveying for otters basically involves just kind of walking along a river or canal and looking for their poo. And canals weren't really great because it's very obvious where they spring to poo. So under any bridge, under any lock, things like that. So, I walked like hundreds of kilometres of these canals in Birmingham looking for otter poo and never saw a single otter. I'm going to get back to the Northeast in a minute, but yeah, in Birmingham, never saw a single otter. And like actually everybody who I would tell about my master's project would be like, oh, it must be amazing to see an otter. And I'd never seen one, and I'd never seen one full stop in my life, even though I did a whole year dedicated to them. So then moved up to Durham for my PhD, and literally a few months in to my PhD was walking along the River Wear in Durham and just like heard a splash in the corner and like saw it. I just like immediately knew that it was an otter. Not only was it an otter, it was an otter and 3 cubs, mum and 3 cubs, right in the middle of Durham city centre. Like loads of people, it was like evenings, loads of people were like out clubbing, drinking, and just this mum and her 3 otters. And she'd spotted that I'd spotted her straight away. but kind of, I wasn't particularly bothered by my presence or anything, and she just swam there with her cubs. And it was amazing. So after kind of a full year and lifetime of not seeing otters, but being utterly obsessed with them, finally managed to see them when I came to Durham. So that was definitely kind of, overall my most memorable moment of Northeast nature. And then the other one in terms of kind of work-related nature stories was just recently, I've been doing a project with a big organisation called Students Organising Sustainability, and they have a Teach the Teacher project, which basically involves going into schools, doing climate and nature sessions with children, and then the pupils then kind of present back to their teachers what they've learned and what they would like to learn more of in schools. One of the schools that I've been working with was actually one that I also previously worked with for my PhD. So I've known this school and worked with this school for almost 8 years on and off now. And obviously new cohorts of students coming through all the time. So I worked with this school, gave them a camera trap to use, which is usually what I do, and then they went out and used this camera trap, and then I returned to the school kind of a month later. Usually the kids just kind of, they're really excited, but you just kind of tell me a little bit about what they saw on the camera trap, and then we kind of go off and do other things. But this group of students have been so excited about what they've found. They put together a whole presentation for me and kind of made me this like throne to sit on, and then presented this whole presentation of all these camera trap photos, and they captured pretty much everything, badgers, deer, foxes, they've captured a stoat, loads of amazing birds, but they'd really kind of just invested like time and effort into where they were going to place this camera trap to get the most captures, and they taught me through kind of, we placed it in this habitat, and then we noticed that there was a badger trail over here, so we went and placed it over here, and then that wasn't quite working, and then we thought, we'll go and place it on a tree so we can get some birds. That was really special, because I just thought, they've really kind of got it, they were really hooked on, not only just kind of putting the camera out, seeing what was there, but kind of really investing in making sure that they got those captures and like learned about the animals. So that was a really special moment as well.
Oh, that must have been so lovely for you to be able to see the difference that you made just with that one sort of session.
Absolutely.
So what would you say are some of the unique characteristics of Northeast wildlife or landscapes that you feel that maybe people don't know about, or maybe people haven't recognised?
So I think the Northeast is just such a incredible place to live and work. I think people who do live and work in the Northeast, love it. People who live and have lived in the Northeast for their whole life are so passionate, and I think that's really lovely. And I think in terms of some of the landscapes that I think maybe nationally people don't recognise as much of the Northeast. I think there's so much that the Northeast has to offer. I mean, I certainly know, having grown up further down south and having family down south, when family and friends have come to visit and we've taken them out, to like the Northumberland coastline, places in like Northumberland National Park, down into North York Moors, County Durham coastline, I think they're just always amazed at how beautiful it is and how much there is to offer here. I think, you don't necessarily picture those big white sandy beaches as being in the Northeast, but they definitely are. And yes, I think that's, it's a really special place to live and work. And I think the other one as well is, so part of my PhD was also doing a really big camera trapping survey, which was kind of from Tees to Tyne, so County Durham to Gateshead and other parts. And as part of the method that I was using to look at mammal abundance, you had to place a camera every 5 kilometres. So I had 129 camera sites with a 5 kilometre spacing. And that was in the first year of my PhD when I just arrived to Durham. So I very, very quickly, I think, got a very good grasp of like the landscape and all the different areas. And obviously in County Durham and wider Northeast, there's obviously like loads and loads of moorland as well. And so the majority of my cameras were on moorland. And obviously there's contentious issues about how grouse moors are kind of managed and things like that, which I won't go into, but I think as a habitat and as a landscape, that's often quite overlooked as well, both in terms of, there's some really beautiful moorland landscapes that we have in the Northeast, and also with my citizen science nerdy hat on, that aren't monitored as much as other landscapes as well, so we don't necessarily have as good an idea of kind of what wildlife is about there. And I think, if we want to kind of restore North East Asia as a whole, then I think it's a massive part of our landscape that we can't really ignore, and so I think working with those landowners, and looking at the nature that is there and what more we can do in those landscapes as well is also something that I'm quite passionate about.
So you mentioned a little bit about working with children and young people. What advice would you give to younger generations who are perhaps concerned about the environment, want to help, don't really know where to start?
Yeah, so I think in terms of kind of practical tips about where to start, I think just kind of talking to people about your passions, not being afraid to talk to people, even if it is just your parents and things like that. From working with lots of different schools over the years, like I've really seen even just how a conversation can actually make a difference. There was one quote from my time with the British Ecological Society that always stuck with me, when we'd gone into a school and we'd done a litter pick, because we were quite young children, and then we'd asked for feedback a few weeks after this litter pick, and one of the students had written, I went home and told my mummy about how it's bad to litter, and now she says she's going to put her rubbish in the bin as well. And although that's quite sad on one respect, that we have parents that are littering, I think, don't underestimate the power of kind of children and young people to make a change like that. And so, talking to people, even if, like I said, it's just your close circle, I think is really important. Citizen science, again, I'll bring up, I think is a great way of kind of getting involved in nature. I'll confess that even though I'm a nature nerd, I'm not particularly good at species identification or anything like that, and I think citizen science is a great way of making it a little bit more accessible, using all the technology out there to kind of connect with nature in that way and learn more about different things, but doing it in maybe a slightly more accessible way that's not as daunting. And then I guess advice from kind of my personal journey. I think, even if you're kind of not the most confident or loud person, I think, those people who know me, I think maybe wouldn't describe me as very confident or loud, but that doesn't mean that kind of you don't have something to offer and you can't get involved in things. I've had many different incredible opportunities, including being asked to be a trustee for 2 organisations, and I've sat on panels and things. And my mum always says to me, I wish your teachers could see you now, because I was that kid who never said anything at school, would never put their hand up, and always in my reports it would be she needs to put her hand up more. But I think, just recognising that, if you're not that loud and confident person, there's many different ways that you can make a change as well. And if you are that loud and confident person, then great as well. My husband is one of those people, he has no problem with standing up in a room and telling people what he wants them to hear. But I think just don't let that imposter syndrome kind of get the better of you, because everybody has something to give. So your voice is very valid. So, final question. Looking back, what legacy do you hope to leave for future generations of natural historians or conservationists? So I think, lots of my work and what I'm passionate about is, inspiring younger people to kind of engage with nature, to connect with nature, and to do that for nature's sake, but also for their own sake, because we know that there's so many benefits to it in terms of well-being and all of that. I think there's lots of change that needs to happen though, I think, and a lot of it is very kind of big systemic changes that needs to happen. Obviously with the environment, we need to be doing a lot more as a society to protect the environment so that future generations have the chance to be able to engage and connect with it. And then also I obviously work a lot with schools, and there's a lot in the education system itself which needs to change. I'm very passionate about kind of working with teachers to spend more time in school grounds and things like that, and doing more citizen science in schools, but also recognising that teachers have a huge amount of pressure on them at the minute. The system is not really set up. We can't just keep giving teachers more and more tick boxes and things to be able to do. So I think in terms of what I would like my legacy to do, I guess, working kind of within the system, but also kind of picking away at it at the same time. So I would like to make kind of those small, local, individual changes, getting more young people inspired about nature, out into nature, seeing that that's a path for them as well, whether that's a career path or whether that's just what they would like to kind of spend their time doing. But at the same time, I would love to be a teeny tiny cog in that systemic change of seeing those bigger changes that we need as a society to really be able to engage with nature for future generations, to be able to work on things like climate change and environmental degradation, and to have an education and a social system which supports that for everybody. That would be what I would love to look back on in 30-40 years' time as being a very, very small part amongst lots of other people in that.
Thank you so much, Sammy. That was absolutely fab. And thank you all so much for joining us for another episode of Talking Naturally. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye!